What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have something a little bit different from you. It's a bit of a continuation from the previous video. We're going to stick with 5 card for this video. And there's a lot here, but I want to call these ideas, the factors. I wanted to clear this up because in the last video I misleadingly claimed that I left out some things. So I wanted to just touch up on that and make sure that I included all the different things that I think about, which allows me to navigate 5 card situations. I'm not going to talk about all of them today, but I am going to touch upon my, I think, unique blocker rating system. I think it's unique because I came up with the idea. It wasn't something I read or any video that I watched, so maybe it'll be useful to you. I think it's particularly useful for 5 card. I thought of it when playing 4 card, and some of my students have really appreciated it. And I think it can be very useful for categorizing and compartmentalizing different combos. And because 5 card just has so many different little compartments, I think this is very useful. So we're going to stick with the example board from the previous video, and 0 to 3 rating scale, 0 being anti-blocker. So on 10, 10, 7, this would be the spades and hearts, because this is example board of diamonds and clubs. Actually, on over here it's diamond and spade, but so let's just say, yeah, so let's say hearts and spades. So let's say hearts and what is this? Diamond, spade. Yeah, so let's say hearts and clubs, and then wheel cards, and particularly the heart and club wheel cards. And then 1 would be any spade, any straight cards that aren't diamonds, and then the remaining wheel diamonds, so deuce through 5 diamonds. And then arguably, I was arguing with myself whether 7x should be top tier or just top tier. You decide, but it's up there. And then king, queen of diamonds for just the second rung, and then all the way at the top, inarguably, is ace of diamonds and 10 of whatever. And then, like I mentioned in the previous video, the nut flush draw is going to be testing and semi-bluff raising and betting almost as much as these components are. So I would say that these are the all-star, rock-star blockers. And then how do we use this? So here are some examples from this board. So the first one I would start off with is just a very, very clear-cut overkill. There's really nothing to think about here, and the solver agrees with me. I would never, ever bet this in my 3-bet pot. I wouldn't bet this. I mean, it's a little bit different if you're in position in a single raise pot, but certainly as the 3-better, when we get this flop and we have literally everything, we have the nut flush draw blocked, we have the straight flush blocked, we have quads and top full. So, excuse me, having 15 out of 15 on my rating scale here, this would be a very clear-cut check. Interestingly, though, right underneath here, we have this combo, which is all 5 of the most crucial diamonds. Crucially, though, it doesn't have any made hand, though. Ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, jack of diamonds, 8 of diamonds. So I disagree with this. I don't think this makes any sense. We're not going to improve to a flush very often. I guess we have a wrap, so between hitting what few diamonds remain and the fact that we have a full wrap, I could understand not pure raising it, but I just think it's too good of a bluff to ever think of doing anything but turning it into a bluff. So interestingly, with my rating system, a high score doesn't sway the combo towards one end or the other in terms of it being a bluff or it being value. It actually is quite mixed, and that's where it can be quite hard to figure this stuff out. But I think my goal with this video is to just give you a taste of it, and maybe if you like the idea and if it's new to you and you want to explore it more, this will give you some of the tools to think about it kind of how I think about it. Now, I just want you to know, in game, I'm not necessarily crunching these numbers. I just have an intuitive sense of where it falls on the scale. But in the beginning, I think actually assigning numbers and values to these sorts of combos and then thinking about the different interactions can be quite a good exercise and can really get us to where we want to go as far as automating and being able to not autopilot, but just the automatic stuff comes more quickly and more automatically. So let's look at another combo. Yeah, so having quads, but then we don't have any of the straight flush cards, we just have straight cards. So I would say that this is 9 out of 15. And I would think that this would probably be doing some betting. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see the ones that have the straight flush, never betting. And the ones that just have a straight flush blocker, pretty happy to get in there. But yeah, we're predominantly betting this. So that just goes to show you that when you remove just the ace of diamonds from this combo, because I think if you just put the ace of diamonds in there, so you can see this rating system, it's super powerful when you start at the very top and you go top to bottom and you think in terms of how powerful is this blocker in terms of creating fold equity. Because when we're bluffing, this is the beautiful thing about it in 5-card, especially when we're bluffing, we love having those key cards. So the weaker our made hand, the weaker our STV, the weaker our equity, basically, all of those components together, then we love having those components. And then when we're kind of in the middle, so let's say, yeah, this is kind of in the middle in terms of having everything. We don't have everything here. Let's say no diamond. We don't have everything here. We just have quads, right? But we don't have a 7. We don't have any diamonds. We have the straight draw blocked, but unblocking the ace of diamonds, the crucial flush draw cards, the ace, king, jack, queen, jack, 9, 8 of diamonds. So that's illuminating for us the importance and exactly where we want to be in terms of a legitimate qualified overkill versus not really an overkill at all. So that's very interesting. So let's look at a different class here. Look at this. King of diamonds, queen of diamonds, king of clubs, queen of clubs, 9 of clubs. Yeah, I wouldn't think we'd be doing too much raising. I mean, we would never raise with this in position, but what about as far as betting? I think when we have double over pairs plus flush draw, we always bet these. Not always. Okay. Well, it's predominantly bet. So this is a little bit of a different part of our range, right? Because we don't have a 10 in hand. So this is a very, very different part of the range where we're going to continue the hand and we have a relatively high score. What did I say? This is 9 out of 15. So the king and queen of diamonds is 4. King, queen is like 6. So maybe 7. 7 out of 15 here, I would say. So this is a very different score and a very different hand class. But let's figure it out together. So we don't really have any crucial blockers here, but we do have a good made hand. So of course we're going to continue. And then the question is, when we lack in those critical top tier blockers and we have a made hand, that would indicate that we're at that point in our range where we want to tread lightly. So that can be pretty useful. And by the way, guys, I apologize. I know some of this stuff I know many of you are tremendous poker players, studied, smart, experienced. So I don't know how remedial or how, I'm not suggesting that anything on my channel is a revelation. I create these videos as a self-help tool. And the fact is that you guys get to, I hope, benefit from it as well. But I'm doing this primarily for myself because I find that when I force myself to edit and make this information succinct and presentable to you, and I have to keep refining it. This is already my 5th video doing this exact same thing. I find that I get much more dialed into the concepts and I'm much more accountable. So I would encourage you viewers to consider doing this if you want to hopefully have a little bit of fun. I have a lot of fun making these. That's why I keep doing them. And also challenge yourself to really digest things. Because if you're just in the lab by yourself in the basement, in the dark corner, crunching through these different sims, yeah, it's good and you'll get there. But I think this adds a different component to it and it adds accountability to it. And for me, it adds fun to it, which if you're not having fun, how many hours can you really put in? So, okay. Let's look at something that's a little bit different. So this one has 1 key blocker. What are we looking at? Ace. It's kind of similar to this one that we were just looking at. We have aces. We have the nut flush draw. Yeah, we're obviously going to bet and continue, and it's a good enough hand to do so. But again, we don't have a crucial, we don't have the 10, we don't have the 7, so we're not really going to be doing any raising with this hand, whereas we could do some bluff raising with the 7, and we could obviously do some value raising with the 10. So whenever we don't have the critical single card blockers, that would lead us towards being more cautious, more passive. Let's look at another one. This one's kind of an interesting one. This is also a 6 out of 15 type hand. Very much lacking in... We wouldn't have this in our 3-bet range, so let's just look at King Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds, 9 out of 5. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't fold these. I would use all these as a bluff raise. I would use the quad suited. I always use quad and quint suited hands as a bluff, just pure. And I wouldn't, you couldn't pull my arm to not raise a hand like this, especially with 9-9, with the 9 of diamonds. That's just such a great bluff combo. So that's an important concept there, and maybe a lot of you guys already recognize this, but it's much bigger in 5 than it is in 4. And I don't know how many of you play both 4 and 5. I think a lot of you play 4. I know a lot of you play 5 too, but I don't know what the breakdown is of my audience. But with that said, for those of you that aren't as familiar with 5 card, we get dealt a lot of 3, 4, 5 suited hands. So if you look into the strategy just overall in the solver, when we have a triple single suited hand, it likes bluffing quite a bit because, for the obvious reason, we don't hit our flush quite as much. But those triple single suited hands often have something else going on that would lead them to being more mixed. So they have the option to be more passive and to check call or to bet check and things like that. Whereas when we have a hand that has quad suited, we don't usually have that luxury. We're kind of just having that one component of having a really good bluff, basically. And for that reason, quad suited hands are almost pure bluffs. And I think it's like 99%, which is essentially pure. But when you get to quint suited, you'll see that it's totally pure. And we are dealt quint suited hands actually at kind of a surprising frequency as 5 card players. So that's just a good heuristic, and that goes to show you that this is the overall concept that I want to illustrate, is that the higher our score in terms of key blockers. So for instance, a quint suited hand, the one that I showed you here, the 14 out of 15. Here's a quint suited hand that has no SDV, no made hand, and yet this is our best bluff, basically. It's the best bluff we could possibly have, I think. Maybe you could swap out the 8 of diamonds for any 7. Arguably, you could say that's a better bluff. But the thing about having a 7 is you actually have some showdown with a 7. So the incentive to bluff is a little bit lower because you could just, potentially, you could just check, 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 win. So the idea is that the more of these critical cards that we're stacking, as Jay Nandez would say, the better it becomes as a bluff when it also has little to no SDV. Where it gets tricky, it's not tricky up at the top because we know that this ace jack 10 10 7, I think all of us recognize, like, yeah, we're not going to be betting that too much. Where it gets tricky is in the middle. So a middling hand. So for instance, as we get down here, like the king king queen queen of the world, that's a middling score as far as crucial blockers, and it's kind of a middling strength hand also. And therefore, do we bet call it? Do we bet fold it? Do we check call it? And the answer with those middling hands is we mix. So we would never bet fold this hand, but we could check call this hand, and we could certainly bet call this hand, and we do in GTO. So towards the middle is more mixing, and then towards the more extremes, then they become much better bluffs and much better value. And then we just have to make judgment calls as to which of the, like, how far do we want to stretch it? Do we want to have less slow plays when we have quads? Do we want to have more fast plays when we have 5 diamonds in our hands? Like, do we want to turn those into a bluff more? Because the solver is saying that that's a pure split between call and raise, which I'm just going to pure raise that hand. I don't think it makes as much sense to call with it. And then on kind of the lower end of the spectrum, what about our naked aces with the ace of diamonds? Do we want to pure bet those and bet fold those? And interestingly enough, yeah, when we have ace ace jack 5 4, we like having the not having the ace of diamonds to bet call. So if we go bet, I love this little, I think I mentioned this in the last video, but it's an interesting wrinkle so that when we get half potted, let's see what happens. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna fold the ones that have the ace of diamonds bare because it just leans them so much towards, and obviously there's other combos in here, but you see a ton of the ace of diamonds is bet folding. And then we're of course gonna include, we're gonna continue with the nut flush draw, but maybe less intuitively, we're also going to continue with some, as long as we have the backdoor flush draw as well, we're going to continue with those as well. Not pure, but a lot of those backdoor flush draws continue because now it's much more likely that they have a bluff with the ace of diamonds, whether they have nut flush draw or just nut flush blocker. So then, yeah, and then to kind of wrap things up, let's look at the anti-blocker hand, and just for funsies, let's confirm what I already know and what you already know. I think 6 of spades, 5 of spades, 5 of clubs. Okay, I've made a huge mistake. 6, not diamond, spade. No, not double pair, sorry, that's a mistake. Yeah, so here we have, I guess we have spades, so that's not, let's do clubs. It's gonna be the same thing. If we just had all clubs, 5 of clubs, 5 of spades. Oh, we don't even have that. But the basic idea is when, and guys, I know this is, I think you guys know this, but this is GTO. And sometimes, listen, I've been guilty of it. My students have been guilty of it. We get into these hyper aggressive modes. We try and win every pot. We use anti-blockers. But here's the sound approach. And if you want to deviate, yeah, okay. These sorts of hands that are basically a 1 out of 15 or a 0 out of 15, we just don't put a chip into the pot. We don't bluff with them. We don't check raise them. If they breathe on the pot, we're out. So let me know what you think. Do you think this is a useful tool to try to digest some of these massive amount of compartments that we have to figure out in this 5-card game? Would you change anything? Would you use it? Let me know, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.